Hey there, all you creepers and reapers. Welcome to another episode of the Femme Fatalities. I'm your co-hostess, Anna, and I'm here with...
Hey, Grieflings and Frightlings, it's Margaret, and whoo bird do Anna, and I have a chilly one for you today. Anna.
Yes, we do. It's none other than a delightful coming-of-age film. Well, except one of the main characters is like a few centuries old. But
Mhm.
nonetheless, we're talking about Let the Right One In or Let Me In, depending on the version or versions that you've
Mhm.
seen. And there are a few triggers here. Let's see, the trials and tribulations of adolescence. Depending on the version that you've seen, there is going to be some level of bloodshed uh, and violence, suicide, murder, uninvolved parents. Um,
Mhm.
Also, spontaneous combustion, bodies of fire. What else?
Bullying,
Mm,
and I'm gonna say alludes to pedophilia. And
yes.
from what I've heard, the book leans more into the themes of pedophilia with our main vamp girl and her older gentleman familiar.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
So the original version, while you mentioned that, I saw the Western version first,
Hmm.
and then I saw the original. And the big difference to me was the level of sexuality. Because I feel like as Westerners, we're very like, even though sex and death are hot topics, they're also very taboo topics. And I think in Europe and other countries, it's depending where you are, it may not be as taboo. And the scene where he peeks and she's putting clothes on, I'm like, did I just see this? That's a little girl.
Hmm.
And it really alarmed me. So the whole kind of pedo nuance.
Yes. Which leads me to one of my questions. Do you think she's grooming him? Like she is a centuries old woman
Mm-hmm.
and she keeps, but like three times in the film, she says, I am not a girl. And then,
Mm-hmm.
like, is she grooming him? And then what is she grooming him for? Because I think back to a previous cast where you talk about child vamps are
Mm-hmm.
attracted to people that are their physical age because then hopefully that child will grow
Yeah.
with them and meet them chronologically. There's no indication that she is going to make him a
Mm-hmm.
vamp. It is an indication she's grooming him to
Yeah.
be her familiar.
Absolutely. And I think from her perspective, right, she's been around for centuries. She needs someone younger and healthier than the current familiar because he's aging out, right? This is a huge commentary on a world of people who, for lack of a better description, are creeps, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of the time we're used to the male being the predator, no matter what age, that's the predator. But I think in these films, she is very much predatory. She knows what she's doing. She knows she has to eat. She knows that these young boys are coming of age, right? So there are hormones flaring, they're bullied, their parent or parents are not active in their lives as they should be, they're unwatched. This is the perfect person to take because who's going to miss them, right? And then
Mhm.
you combine that with homicidal acts related to the bullies. This kid thinks, oh my God, she just saved me. Whereas realistically, you're an accomplice to a crime now. You're going to
Mhm.
get blamed for this, so you have to leave. Otherwise, you're going to prison. And I think that that's a big part of it. She needs someone to do her bidding. There is no, the only romanticizing is based on her manipulative behavior.
Yes, definitely. I am like with you. And then that like human part of me, that part of me that just really wants to see the good in people. I think that's what this movie brings up, this struggle to. Is she lonely? Does she just want a friend? Does she really care for him? And that's why she killed the bullies. And that touches on the complexities that even grooming, even if she does, her behavior is not okay. And how so often in toxic relationships, that's how we
Yes.
justify it. Well, you love me, so it's okay that you hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not okay. Like Anna was saying, love is not making you an accomplice in a crime. And so I feel like this movie really holds that tension of how we want to be seen and validated and taken care of, and the healthy and unhealthy ways that
Mm-hmm.
that can happen.
Absolutely. And I think also for her, part of the perspective is maybe she does have somewhat of a maternal instinct and she wants to protect him from the bullies. We don't know if in her human life she had siblings that she had to help take care of or anything like that. Obviously, due to her human appearance and age, she would not have had children, is what we assume.
Mm-hmm.
But like so many other females who look younger than they are, right? Or just females in general, just because you don't have children, that's not an indication that you didn't want them. She's had all of these years of life experience and this time to mature. So those are probably thoughts that have passed her mind at some point. I also think that we know that this isn't her first person that she's taken away. And if you're taking people as, pre-adolescents or very young adolescents, there's only so far that they're going to mature. Sometimes you're the company you keep. So even though she's old in terms of her vampiric age, mentally she may not be past teenage years. Because really, the boys grow into men, they go out and work, they get money, they steal, they do whatever they need to, they get the housing.
Mm-hmm.
She's just the one being taken care of.
Ooh, that is such a fantastic take on her possible maternal instincts, and then also societal's construct of what a male bodied person does. And since she is in a child body, how
Mhm.
limited she is in her options. So she has to have these men that are grandfatherly or fatherly to take care of her, or even an adolescent
Mhm.
boy who then it looks like, oh, it's just her friend. And I often wondered that, like, how long is he going to stay with
Mhm.
her? Does she turn him at some point, or does he just, because it looks like she has a history of when
Mhm.
her familiars no longer are useful,
Yeah.
they're dead. She's not going to be like, okay, like, you're 18 now, you took care of me this long,
Mhm.
go live your life. And what is he going to do? Age out, become like a 60-year-old man, and his whole life is going to be taking care of
Mhm.
his vampire girlfriend? Like, I feel like he thinks that
Yeah.
they're like
Yeah.
boyfriend, girlfriend.
Right. And I think that a lot of this, and really when we're looking at grooming situations, the emotional and intellectual growth is stunted, which she clearly is doing. Um, in terms of ever having a healthy relationship, these guys are not going to really experience that. And it kind of flips the script because we are so used to, even in horror movies, the perpetrator being male facing, right? Masculine facing.
Mhm.
And we really want to see the bullies as the ultimate antagonists in the film. You bring up such a great point that we're missing out when we're looking at our vampiress and the actions that she's taking in order to sustain her undead lifestyle. I guess it would be her death style, really.
Mhm. Yes, and we don't know her background. We just know that, like you said, like, she is the predator,
Mm-hmm.
and how her being the predator even changes our perspective, how we view her, and how we view the bullies. Like, you want those bullies to get it not as badly as they got it. And you can even see
Yeah.
the bullies, the two that are just always accomplices and never say anything, how they're struggling to survive and having to be friends with the
Mm-hmm.
bully. And even the bully, when his brother is like, nope, he has to pay for what he did to you. And even him
Mhm.
kind of like, this is
Yeah, it's
too
a trickle down.
much. Like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's at with the brother, then you kind of feel bad for the bully, like, oh, that's why he behaves in that manner. I do definitely think that, funny enough, the death scene of the bullies was more gruesome. Not, it's not really gruesome, but more is going on in the Western version. So it's just kind of funny the non-parallels of sexuality and violence between the West and other countries. Which we could talk about that all day and, and probably have more to talk about.
Yes. Yeah. That like the bully scene. I just think about right? What is it? Swedish one?
Mhm.
Sweden. And you're focusing on like him holding the kid underwater. And if you don't pay attention, you're like missing, oh, there was just a foot that just got
Mhm.
thrown in the deep or the other. And weird comment about that one. Why is that kid always swimming in the pool with his mouth open? Like that was weird. I was like, what is wrong with him? Like who swims? Who's in the pool? Just, ah.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely it's not how we're taught to swim. On that. Yeah.
Do you
Um
think that's like commenting on that maybe he's not the smartest kid, that maybe he is not as developed as the bullies? Because when I saw them, like, is there like something developmentally different or going on with him? Because that seemed that's not a normal thing to
mhm.
do unless that actor just swims that way. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Or I think maybe it could have been done to make his character seem even more kind of feeble and weak and more of a target because he is so unusual. Um and different. And
And
maybe
it
that
brought up
was,
some empathy because, like, when you're watching him and like the pool
yeah.
water is getting in his mouth, I was just like, this kid, like,
Yeah. Ugh, I know,
yeah.
just ugh, the idea of accidentally swallowing the pool water.
Hmm.
Ugh, it's the
Yeah.
scariest part of the movie. No. So I know you said that you had some other questions too. Um,
Yes. Pull them up. So many questions. I asked about the grooming. Asked you if you thought so. In looking at does she care for him? Do you feel like they were? I was wondering if they're just two people that are just really desperate to connect and
mhm,
that they're kindred spirits, because remember she makes that point to him when he judges her for killing and how she makes the comment that he wants to kill.
I don't know. I feel like that's just manipulation on her behalf. And I think the confusing thing for me is because you see a child, right? Even though you know that this vampire character is like so many centuries old or whatever, but it's like that's something a child would say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're talking about me, well, you want to do this. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when kids are playing and one pushes the other one down and then they get up and they go to push him and they're like, no, I'm gonna tell. You know what I mean? It's a
Mm-hmm.
very juvenile type of behavior. And I think that she's manipulating him because obviously juvenile behavior is going to get more of a reaction from another juvenile than an adult. I don't know, what do you think?
Yes. Well, like, yes, he wants to kill. He's being bullied. So we see that
Mhm.
him wanting to kill his bullies is him wanting to kill his bullies. Could he actually become a bully himself? Yes, because that happens too.
Mhm.
And like you said, he's a kid. There is still room for intervention. There is still. So then we go back to your point about these absent parents. Dad's an alcoholic. He's the Disney time dad, or he's going to go get drunk with his friend. And mom, she has dinner with him, and then I don't know, she's
Mhm.
gone. So he doesn't have parents to be like, what's going on? And he's already learned to lie. Like when he gets into the fight with the bully and she's like, well, what happened? And he's like, I fell down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he's perfect for grooming because he's already learned
Yeah.
to lie to protect somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it really the grooming and the scenario in these films is really something that I just want to mention, particularly in Western society. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but we really identify the perpetrator as masculine facing, the victim as feminine facing, and that's very far from the truth. There are a lot of situations out there where the perpetrator may be feminine facing, the victim is masculine facing, or both parties are masculine facing. And if you or someone you know have experienced trauma or abuse, or you currently are, know that there is help out there. There are resources to get you out of that situation or help you continue to get through the aftermath of that situation. It doesn't make you any less of a masculine facing person, less of a man, less of a transgender female to male, however you identify. It does not lessen your character by any means. Do not listen to society and society's opinion. If you have been abused or if you're being abused, there are resources and there is help out there for you.
Yes. Look for those resources. Thank you, Anna, for validating that and normalizing that for our viewers and listeners. And yes, there are supports out there. And I also think Anna touches on with men, because we are looking at a female perpetrator. There are so many young men in the world that their first sexual experience could have been a sexual assault. They could have been groomed. I think of how many young men, they're like, oh yeah, I had sex with my babysitter. She was in her 20s and I was 10, 11, 12. Oh, this older woman in my neighborhood. And then when you lean into it, there's this discomfort. So if that's happened to you, please seek help because that's not okay. Our society's like, oh yeah, ooh, you did it with your babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
You're so lucky. And maybe that person was like, I didn't want
Yeah.
that. And that is so often for, I'm going to guess, a lot more male facing people in our society that happens. And our society has just normalized that, is that that's okay when they weren't allowed the power to say, I don't want to do this with you. This doesn't feel okay. That, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
get that help. If it didn't feel okay, trust that it didn't feel okay. You had an experience that you weren't ready for or you didn't want to have happen. And that's not okay.
Absolutely. And also, if you're concerned about speaking to a counselor, therapist, or interventionist and mandated reporting, there are warm and soft lines that you can contact with anonymity. So that's something to keep in mind as well. If there's often kind of that saying of once it hits the legal system, the victim is re victimized at least once or twice more. Um, if that's not the route that you want to go to, you still are able to get through this journey, and there are resources that offer anonymity as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there are resources out there for you. And in talking about sexual abuse, oftentimes it's not reportable unless your abuser is still around children. So if you're disclosing that you have been abused and that abuser is still around children, then
Mm-hmm.
your therapist, your counselor, the interventionist, whoever you're talking to is going to have to report that to CPS because they are still a threat to children.
Yes.
You might not know how to find them. And then that would be, if you're like, I don't know, I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in California, I live in Texas. Now I have no idea where they are. I just know her name was Lucinda and she
Mm-hmm.
was the neighbor. That's, there's, you want to report that, you can't because like when people make a report, you need the child's name, you need
Mm-hmm.
the county. There's so many bureaucratic red tape that can make it really hard
Yeah.
to report, and general reports still happen. I know the child's name is Margaret. she lives in Colorado. I couldn't tell you where, and they'll take it and hopefully get more information.
Do you have some more questions about these
Let me see
little
what else, because I think just in
vampy
talking,
kids?
we have answered a lot of them. Yeah, I think just in talking, we've answered them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Who do you most relate to in the film?
I'm going to say one of the cats.
Yeah.
How about you? Like, this film, I don't know about you, I felt that there wasn't a lot of likable people
No.
in this film. There wasn't a lot of relate. I mean, we could relate in little bits, but not somebody you were like, oh yeah, like I really relate to them.
Yeah. I think if I had to pick someone, it probably would be the lady that gets bit and then dies in the hospital, just because it's like, okay, I'm out here, I'm trying to handle my business, like it's nobody else's business, whatever, and then you know, it's like now what? I thought I was having a bad night already. Now it's
and
really
she was
bad.
in an unhealthy relationship.
Yeah.
Like, this
Yeah.
film is just a movie of unhealthy relationships.
Yeah. And it's definitely, I think, yeah, the shift between like the argument and behavior between her and the partner, and then she gets bit and the partner's like, oh my god, and it kind of goes back to the old adage of, you know, you don't really know what you have until something happens. But I did like the original version better with her, and how she just kind of like poof, versus the newer one.
Yes.
Yeah, but you're right, the characters just aren't, none of them are really likable. Yeah, maybe I should change to the cat too. I don't know. Oh my. But you know, it's a different type of vamp story, which we're always looking for. Listeners, if you have any vampire films that are not like on the normal vampire lane, please let us know, because we are really looking for new things and just how they relate to grief and loss and change and culture and all of those sorts of items. So if you have any suggestions, please comment below. We would love to know.
Yes.
And I have to take a little trip and get a jar of soil from my homeland. So I need to go soon because it's almost the end of daylight and I have to get a big start if I'm going to make it back in time.
Yes. Good luck on that journey to get that soil. That is so needed. I can't believe you're this long without that soil.
Well, you know, it happens. You do what you gotta do. Yeah. But I don't know, maybe I might burst into some bats and head out. We'll see what happens. Let me know if you want to come along.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow.
And hopefully you're enjoying our little silly jokes at the end. If you have any silly little jokes or dry humor things that you would like to share, we would love them. Make sure you crawl into that coffin, get a good day's sleep, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.